Hello and welcome to Co-Optics. I'm Andrew and this is Andreas.
Hey everyone.
Today we're going to be recording Portal 2. If you would like a chance to win a copy of Portal 2, please subscribe to our newsletter at co-optics.com/subscribe.
Thanks for the introduction there, Andrew. And let's talk a little bit about some facts on Portal 2 first. So, Portal 2 is a first person puzzle platformer which was made by Valve in 2011 on Steam. So, you will still require an internet connection to download and install Portal 2, but you can play it locally with two controllers on a computer on split screen mode. But generally, like Andrew and I, we played simply online through the Steam servers, and you will also be able to get additional content through the Steam Workshop. The current price is by average $9.99, so just about $10 per player. Even though we played on the PC, it also released for the Mac OS system, Linux, the PlayStation 3, and Xbox 360. In Portal 2, there are only really two co-op features. You have the co-op campaign, which is about Atlas and Peabody being led by GLaDOS through the facility, and then you have the community-made maps, which are pretty much depending on what the community did with that, but you're still playing as Atlas and Peabody. That's not gonna change. In terms of the campaign, you're going pretty much through, I believe it was 5 courses, it could be 6, but with different challenges, and each course has a certain theme. So in Portal 2, you play as two characters, and what is a little bit annoying is you can't really decide who plays who, but from the themes of it, the host always plays at Atlas, which is a smaller, wider, round robot, and the guest is always going to play Peabody, which is a long and slimmer type of robot. And so you don't really have character selection or customization, but it doesn't really matter too much in terms of gameplay because both are playing the exact same way in terms of jumping abilities, sprinting capabilities, and by the end of the day, both get the same portal gun, just one shoots them in shades of blue and one shoots them in shades of red and orange. So, even though ironically, I actually got the one I preferred, I played as Peabody, and I don't know, it's just personal preference at this point. And I don't even know where I had it from, but I had even goggles as a customization option.
I had this random beanie for both robots. No idea where it came from.
The only downside with that is that Steam makes it kind of random appearing in the customization menu, is that there's no real unlock screen, so you don't know how to get additional customization options, and we also didn't unlock anything by finishing the game.
The game starts out with the learning how to do the portal gun, your pings, your whatever all you need to know to play the game. And then from there, each course introduces one new mechanic, and it focuses on that mechanic for majority of that course. And honestly, I quite enjoyed how they did it, because if they threw everything at you at once, then it could very easily get overwhelming.
Yeah, and just to give you listeners some input here of our perception, Andrew here actually did play Portal 2 in the single player campaign, and he played with other people before in multiplayer years ago, versus I only know Portal 2 because I played Portal 1. A lot of the mechanics did carry over, but the refresher course definitely was enjoyable. And Andrew, I don't know how you feel about it, but the lack of a companion cube in the co-op mode was oddly disturbing to me. How about you?
The companion cube is honestly a fun thing in the single player, because it's like, oh, it's your pet, it's your friend. Now you have to burn it.
GLaDOS is working already anyway to tear the partners away with the sarcasm and the straight out lies of how GLaDOS is, for example, favoring one over the other, even though at random she just switches her opinion completely on the other one. So I guess in a way, you could say that Atlas and Peabody are companion cubes to one another.
Well, to really be honest about that, if I think about it, it makes a bit more sense, just because the robots are supposed to be friends. It would have been like adding on a third wheel to a date with your girlfriend or something like that.
So speaking of companion cubes, I actually enjoyed how you unlocked the different emotes as you went through the courses and how much it pissed GLaDOS off. So, for those that are about to play Portal 2 as soon as you win your copy on Wednesday, at the very start you only have the waving emote, but as you finish one course after the other, you unlock several other ones, such as the high five, or even stealing each other's hats.
In between those two extremes, you do get rock, paper, scissors, which is pretty fun, but not as extreme as taking each other's heads off. And then one thing I had a bit of a problem with was just GLaDOS's humor. It was dry, dark, and sarcastic, and tried to tear people away. Now, I've gotten better at sarcasm, but it could still get to some people, I'm sure, and cause some undue stress.
To add to what Andrew said there, I agree that especially, for example, if you were playing with a younger brother or, for example, father and younger son or so, like the position I'm in, it might make it a little bit awkward because coop games you would usually feel like they're built up on trust. And even though it's very acclaimed that Valve did a great job with the dark humor writing and such, it can become probably problematic for some people. But Andrew and I, luckily, have been friends for so long that we are basically poking fun at GLaDOS for trying to pull us apart from each other, because it's like, yeah, we had worse. Andrew mentioned earlier how the courses are building up on each other, so you learn one trick after the other, so to speak. One fun memory of where we had kind of brain farts going on, in which we had to direct a laser into one location and then use portals to have the laser go basically around the corner. Now, what the game never taught you spelled out is that lasers can go through certain materials. And so we were looking around, be like, how the heck can we get this laser in there? And it was one of those plain sight, obvious kind of deals. And we struggled maybe for it for like 20 minutes, where we should have taken for it like maybe 5 minutes. And so, hey, Andrew, where would you think we struggled the most during the Cope campaign?
When we missed the actual obvious solution. Like that one puzzle where it was the one with the laser and the funnel. The one I'm thinking of is the first time we made it go diagonally through like all our portals, and it's like, no, that's not gonna work.
Yeah, and then we had to funnel one guy over first, and then he could make the portal to get a laser where it needs to go.
I'd say our biggest problem was when we overthought things, because that's the type of people we are, if I'm honest.
What I like about Portal 2 a lot, and I don't know how you feel about that, is the realisticness of the physics. So, obviously, there's a suspension of disbelief considering all things like that a body could actually withstand the kind of speed you can build up when you, for example, put a portal in the floor and the ceiling and you start going faster, faster, and faster and faster. Obviously, a body would reach terminal velocity at some point where it would just kind of tear apart.
Maybe they're just really well built robots.
But all things considered, the physics are pretty sound. So, for example, how you keep your momentum, and then when you, let's say, make a portal on a diagonal platform, that you would actually shoot out in an arc, kind of as if you would be shot out of a cannon, because that is the same logic. I personally really enjoyed that since I loved my physics so much. And that is also another reason why people love Portal and Portal 2, because it actually helps you understand in a very straightforward way how physics work. I mean, after all, the whole purpose of the facility was testing, according to GLaDOS anyway. I don't know if you remember the moving platforms at all, but I kind of missed them. Like Portal 1 had a lot of those platforms that move on their own, and you just had to stay on them and then shoot the portals as you were moving on the platform, like the one where you were supposed to get your cake.
I think the jump pads replaced those somewhat. One thing about Portal, and probably just puzzle games in general, is the fact that once you finish the game, there's little, if any, replay value. Because I could tell you that there was at least one time where I remembered a solution that took me much longer the first time around. And I mean, we got a good 5 hours out of it, so it's not the longest game you could play, but it's not bad for what it is.
Yeah, and obviously the 5 hours pertains to the co-op campaign only. So obviously with the community made maps, which Valve had great thinking ahead, you can probably get unlimited time out of it as long as you keep downloading more custom made maps. Andrew and I didn't try many of those maps, but from the community's feedback on Steam, there seem to be quite plenty great maps out there. However, personally, with the whole co-op campaign, I felt that it was much easier compared to Portal 1, but that could also be because in Portal 1, it was the first time I learned about the Portal mechanics, and since I already played it way back when I was even still living in Germany, Portal 2 felt much more natural in terms of gameplay because it was a matter of remembering, kind of what people say about riding a bike. And yet, Andrew had an advantage over me since he played Portal 2 in the co-op campaign before, and it became quickly evident that some puzzles can be solved by single player as long as the other one is smart enough to just tag behind. So it's I wouldn't say necessarily that it's a good or bad point because it allows the player who figures the puzzle out to kind of take control, especially if the other one is not following the solution as much in their head, because there is quite a bit of thinking required for Portal, which is the point of a puzzle game. But there were points where Andrew would be so much ahead of me in the thought process, where I was just like, you know what? You do the portals, I run after you, and let's get through this course.
At the same time, there were plenty where we needed both people to think, and definitely you need both people's portals for most, if not all of them. Like, for example, there are at least a few puzzles where one person would have to press a button, and then the other person would have to catch a block that fell or otherwise take advantage of a small window of time.
And somehow these teamwork exercises would, according to a big screen in what they call the hub, which is pretty much from where you move between the courses, into science collaboration points. And to me, they make no sense whatsoever. I had at some point like minus 600 points. We did a whole course together, and after that, I had 1200. And only Valve knows probably how the science collaboration points are being accumulated because there is no benefit to them, which might be just as a joke of some sorts in order to create more discord between the two players as they're trying to compare how much science collaboration points each one has. So I'm not really sure what the point was with that. That was a little bit confusing. And I just suggest when you play this, don't worry about that at all and just focus on the puzzles.
No, don't take the game itself too seriously. To be perfectly honest, there's a lot of things you don't want to take seriously. Like, gaming is one thing that if you take too seriously, it just might not be fun anymore.
One thing you want to be aware of with your partner and yourself, you kind of have to be a little bit of a puzzle type of player because you will not find any tips or hints inside the game.
Except for maybe some arrows telling you, oh, go this way. Or, oh, you need to go upwards.
There are no tips. Let's say, for example, you don't figure out the puzzle even after 10, 20, or 30 minutes. There will be no additional, hey, maybe you need to do something with this. So you need to work closely together, and we definitely recommend voiceover for that. Even though there's a built-in chat, you can definitely use that. It's just because a lot of the puzzles have, like Andrew mentioned earlier, timing challenges, and it is definitely easier to simply use voiceover rather than even the gestures, as there's a lot of delay in terms of using it and reacting.
Although there is that 3-second timer ping, which was helpful even with voice.
There is obviously story, but you pretty much have to play Portal 1 and 2 single player to understand the story. I guess
I mean, the story's not non existent, but it doesn't have all too much bearing on the gameplay, and it doesn't connect too much to Portal or Portal 2 beyond GLaDOS and a few references here and there, perhaps.
From my point of view, Portal 2 was a very great co-op game, especially because there are not many puzzle games out there in this kind of format. Usually, puzzles are just a part of a game and not the focus of a game. So, and me being more of a thinker, loving and preferring strategy games over many others, this is a healthy and refreshing mix of both action and strategy because you have to think outside of the box to progress, and especially because it builds up so much on teamwork in the co-op campaign. So that is why I would give it an overall score from my side 5 out of 5.
For me, I had to give the game an overall score of 5 out of 5 because, well, what it does perfectly well. It was really enjoyable, despite a few frustrations, perhaps.
It executed perfectly in terms of the co-op features, in my opinion, which is why I give it a straight 5 out of 5.
I gave co-op features a 4 out of 5 because other than the co-op campaign and maybe a few good map from the community, there's only so much that you can do in it.
On teamwork dependency, so basically how much you rely on each other, I give it a 4 out of 5 because it feels in certain cases you are completely dependent on both players completely cooperating 100% together, and then there are cases of the complete opposite where one guy can pretty much rush through and carry the other one through the puzzle. And so it just can be misleading in certain courses where you're not sure if you could do it alone or if you rely on your partner. Pretty much, if you're going to play it, just assume that you will need both players to work together.
Teamwork dependency I gave a 4 out of 5 mostly for the reasons Andreas said. You generally need both people in order to solve all the puzzles, and even if one person can lead the way, you'll still need the other person for their portals most of the time.
And then, last but not least, the overall gameplay. I also give it a 4 out of 5 because it does something that no other game does. I haven't seen really other games with teleport functions that work this well and carry over the laws of physics, such as the trick I mentioned earlier with the portal in the ceiling and the floor in order to accelerate yourself and then catapult yourself by aiming one of the two portals that you're using to build up the momentum on a diagonal platform and shoot yourself across. That is not just great and amazing in terms of the physics, but also it is definitely unique and barely seen, if at all, in other games, even in this age of technology. And again, this game came out in 2011. For what it did back then, in my opinion, it still beats a lot of games that came out within the last 3 years, and it aged pretty well. I would recommend this game if you have a very close friend, or maybe if you have children in middle school.
Gameplay I would have given a 5 because, like I said, what it does really well. But the fact that there's not a lot to do after you finish everything, like there's no point in going back, that's the only reason it lost a point.
So if I add up Andrew and my scores, we're going to end up with an overall score of 10 out of 10. So we definitely recommend this to play together. On the co-op features alone, our scores combine to a 9 out of 10. On teamwork and gameplay is going to be an 8 out of 10 with our scores combined. So high marks across the board from the both of us, and we can only definitely recommend it for you to try.
And that is why we'll be giving away some copies of Portal 2. So if you would like one, please subscribe at co-optics.com/subscribe. As well, don't forget to join our Discord for the latest news and podcasts. And with that said, have a good day, night, whatever.